everybody, and welcome to another episode of Breakthroughs with Jordan Murphy, the podcast that has conversations about the defining moments that shape our lives. Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. I'm a big fan of Audible. I use it all the time. As I've said many times on my podcast, I love listening to books as opposed to reading them for some reason, which I've yet to understand, but I guess I don't really need to. Anyway, if you'd like, go to my website and you will get 2 free audiobook downloads when you join Audible. It's a limited time, so just go to the website and you'll find that information. Also, the podcast is brought to you by Amazon Fresh. Now, this is really cool because basically you go online, you order the groceries that you want, and they are delivered to your doorstep. Super convenient. So again, if you just go to my website, breakthroughswithjordanmurphy.com, and you get $25 off your first purchase with Amazon Fresh. Very interesting episode today, trying something out new. Actually, this was a suggestion from my guest, so I'm basically just stealing it from him. It's a ping pong interview. That's right. We're going to be going back and forth, sharing the space, sharing the podcast, and both of our podcasts are going to be available on our podcasts. It's just that simple. So my guest today is Roman Wyden. He is a filmmaker. He's a relationship coach. He's also, of course, the host of his own podcast, You Love Life. So, Roman,
hey,
welcome to the show.
Okay.
You want to go first?
Well, okay.
It's your place. I mean,
Is that okay?
Yeah,
it's like playing ping pong with 2 balls.
Exactly. At the same time.
Okay, so I'm really excited to have you on my podcast.
Yeah.
You were recommended to me by a friend who said, well, you always talk about important issues and breakthroughs. And she says, well, you got to talk to Jordan.
That's right. That's right. Our good friend, Bridge.
Yes, Bridge Mahalik. Shout out to Bridge. Amazing photographer and human being.
Yeah, I've known her for, God, over 15 years.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We go way back.
I think it was even more. Yeah.
Let's make the whole podcast about Bridge.
Yeah.
Would that be weird?
Maybe Bridge is the key word. So I just noticed that we both have a black shirt on.
That's right.
We have dark rimmed glasses.
Uh-huh.
We have some gray hair.
Very studious.
Although you have more hair on top than I do.
I do. It's correct.
But I have a little extra on my chest.
I have lots of hair on my chest.
Oh, yeah?
I'm kind of a hairy guy.
I'm not that hairy. Yeah, you're definitely hairy.
Yeah.
You're hairier than me,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Does that ever come into play during intimacy where your wife is like, hey, baby, could you shave?
Can you do some manscaping?
Yeah.
No, actually.
Oh.
I think I'm a little bit more mindful of it than she is.
Of your own or hers?
Mine.
Okay,
I'm really okay if she manicures herself.
Yeah.
But I don't like get on her about it. I'm not like, you really should handle something.
Would you call yourself a
metrosexual?
European, I was going to say 3rd Street Promenade European kind of fanny bag metrosexual?
Whoa, wow, you brought the fanny pack into it. You brought my wife, when my wife listens to this, she'll probably fall out of her chair because I actually did have a fanny pack in the 90s.
Oh, me too.
I mean,
did you also wear
it was convenient. It was utilitarian.
Yeah.
It made sense.
You know what's funny? I'm from Switzerland, and I came here in '92. And back in Europe, what was really popular were the cut-off jean short and the tall aerobic socks.
The jorts.
The tube socks.
The jorts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm roller skating on Venice Beach.
Uh-huh.
And these 2 guys walk by, and they go, nice shorts. And me being naive 22-year-old Swiss, I go, oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
You know,
just a nice guy.
We all go through this.
Yes.
Right?
It is.
So where are you from?
I'm from Northern California.
Oh, wow.
Bay Area. Yeah. I grew up in the East Bay, Oakland, Piedmont Hills, and the Berkeley area.
Yep.
Anybody who happens to know that area. And I spent my formative corruptive years in San Francisco, the actual city. I went to high school in San Francisco.
Okay. And you were born what year?
70.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
What month?
October.
I'm February.
Okay.
So I'm older.
Yeah, that's right.
Hence what it does
hair.
to you, like just a few months,
hair.
I know, amazing.
That and being married and having children will do that.
You have 3 children.
3 kids.
How old?
I have a 13-year-old dude.
Wow.
And I have identical twin girls.
Identical twin girls.
They're 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a whole other dynamic. Not only do you have 3, but you have twins.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much we get into details, but tell me about Let's talk about being dads,
okay.
being married. You're an actor. You're a all over creative. You're an actor, producer, podcast host, probably also write.
Not a real big writer.
Not so much?
No.
Okay.
In fact, actually, that's kind of why the podcast happened, because somebody said, hey, I was sharing with them. I'm a recovering alcoholic. And so I was sharing over dinner with somebody in Vegas, of all places, about my recovery, about my story, basically how I got sober. And she was like, oh my God, that's so amazing. I'm so moved, and you should write a book. And I was like, whoa, I don't know. I'm not a real big writer of books.
Yeah.
I'm not a real big writer of anything. I'm technology. I like to type things. I have terrible handwriting. I don't have the discipline that it takes to
we're
write.
like brothers, man.
Yeah. So I'd love to write. I just don't have the discipline. So I'm, hence the podcast, because I like to talk.
So whatever happens in Vegas did not stay in Vegas. You came back and you created a podcast.
That is correct.
Nice.
And I stayed sober in Vegas too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many years sober?
Let's see. I had 4 years. I just had my 4th birthday, February 14th. Actually, it's Valentine's Day is my my sobriety.
4 years.
It's actually 4.5 now. Is that right? Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's great. I'm really grateful.
Power of will.
Man.
And sponsors.
Power of getting my head out of my ass.
Yeah. Yeah, that does not feel good.
No.
That visual is not.
No.
not going anywhere. So as dads, right? Let's go back and forth with each other. Biggest challenge as a dad.
Wow. This is where we're going to edit, right? My biggest my biggest challenge as a dad. My biggest challenge as a dad is not responding to my children like an asshole. My humanness, my personality, my will to control, my need for respect, to be shown respect, if that's threatened, especially when I'm off balance on a day, and I respond like a jackass, that's challenging to me, because I don't want to model that for my children. My dad can't keep his shit together, Now, there's also something to be said about being honest and being authentic, and then having to come back and clean it up and say, look, guys, dad lost his shit. I don't use the word with them. Dad isn't perfect. I messed up.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. That shouldn't have gone that way. I apologize.
So you clean it up right away?
As quickly as I can. As quickly as I can. And I'm clear that cleaning things up like that is necessary on all fronts. But I guess, I don't know, does that answer the question though?
It does. No, absolutely. Mine was similar, but mine is, as of recent, I realized, I'll give you an example. This morning, we're driving the kids to school, and our kids don't get to use screens during the week, and they don't have iPads, and there's only cartoons on Saturday or Sunday.
Got it.
We're I don't want to say it's strict, but we just got tired of the screens and the noise and the distraction, the fighting over the charger, and we were just like, no. And they've really gotten used to it. And this morning, he said in the car, can I just use your phone for something? I said, no screens. And he goes, well, you're addicted to it. And I was like, okay, hold on, Junior. Hold on. You don't understand. I'm working. I'm also in a leadership program. I have a lot of texts and emails I got to answer. He's like, yeah, but you never listen to us when you're always on your phone. And in that moment, I kind of did what you did. I said, you're right. We are on the phone a lot, and we do not pay attention to you when we're on the phone, because it's hard to multitask for me as a man, or at least as me. And I said to him, thanks for reminding me, and keep reminding me when you see it. And we're going to create a schedule where we know that we're not going to use our phones after a certain hour, like after 6, right? Until they go to bed.
Yeah, electronics are not allowed. My kids will call me out if for some reason, even if I really feel it's justified. If I pick up my phone at dinner, they call me out.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, that used to be my challenge. And now I get that it's just structuring the day that way, so they know.
Well, you're having these kids to support you and keep you accountable.
Yeah, they're my live-in coaches. Yeah,
totally.
And it's like, fuck you, coach. And then you go, but I know you're right.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. Well, they're mirrors.
Yeah.
They're us.
Yeah.
We see ourselves in them, and they're being sometimes our little person, our little child. You know?
call it feedback, right? Because we're doing something and they just mirrored right back. Yeah. And you're like, I don't like it. Oh, really?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
look familiar?
That's me.
Exactly. What do they say? You know, like the things that you find most irritating in others are something you should look at in yourself.
Yes.
Son of a bitch.
Your background, you and I's background are similar. We've done a lot of transformational work.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, doesn't make us any better than anyone. Nope. If you're listening. Doesn't mean anything. Nope. But we've done a lot of transformation work.
Yeah.
I think you started before me.
Pardon me.
I know it's a sensitive subject and people cough.
It's getting me excited. No, you know, I did. Growing up in Northern California.
Yeah, were your parents hippies?
No. My parents were like pretty darn square, actually. Didn't drink, didn't do drugs. I mean, there was hardly alcohol. There was like Sambuca or maybe like cooking alcohol in the house. That was about it. But growing up in that area, the whole notion of spirituality and auras and crystals and things like that was readily available. You know, the Haight or Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley, or that.
It was around you. Like,
it was around me.
Yeah.
And so I was exploring it. And I remember reading a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, and then The Seat of the Soul. And
I read that, yeah.
And I was relatively young when I read those, and it kind of opened up that conversation.
How young? Just curious, because
I would say probably 21.
Okay, yeah. So we have a similar, I think around 23 to 4, I was reading a lot of those books. Yeah. I don't remember who gave them to me, but like Seed of the Soul, there was Chicken Soup for the Soul, Conversations with God.
Conversations with God.
But
exactly. Those. Alchemist.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a flurry of that kind of conversation started to be present for me, and I just really loved it. It just tasted good. It felt good to explore it, but it was not cool yet. It was not hip.
Yeah.
Oprah hadn't told us it was okay yet.
Yeah.
The Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
As I say, as I like to say, we weren't given permission to a certain degree en masse to have that conversation about our higher self, exploring, expanding ourselves, our vibration, all that kind of stuff. It was still weird.
Yeah, it's just hippie crystal,
dippy woo woo shit.
I call it Topanga Canyon early stages, where it's like, you go up there and be in the canyon and do your smoke signals.
That's right.
But it's interesting because you and I have a similar, not upbringing, but that phase, right? I went through the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I just knew, I kind of knew I was brainwashing myself for the good.
Right.
Washing always makes something cleaner. So brainwashing is actually a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But I felt like that was going somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then you, I'm assuming, had a friend also at some point recommend transformational workshops.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't really get into the transformational workshops until I moved to Los Angeles, actually. So I was 30. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I was in Los Angeles before I was 30. But I was in Los Angeles when I was introduced to my first personal professional training and development course.
2000-ish?
2000.
Yeah.
And they invited me. They're dear friends. I consider them family. They said, hey, go check this thing out. I said, okay, I went, and I never turned back.
And it was your first one Landmark?
Landmark Worldwide, yeah.
Same here, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably also why Bridge thought you guys could talk Landmark all day long.
Landmarkies, yeah.
And I just wanted, for the listeners, for both our listeners, just want to know, I've done other courses. I'm sure you have as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't really care which one people take. I'm not promoting any, one or the other.
Right.
But I think every human being should do some transformational work.
Absolutely.
Just to look inside, and not just look inside, but look deeper and in a different nooks and cranny, right?
I think one of the things that, if anybody responds to the notion that I responded to, because it was so simple and articulate, which was the big circle they draw on the board.
Yeah.
They draw a big circle on the board, and they say, imagine everything there is to know in the known universe is in this circle. Yeah. Now tell me how much you think you know. And then they make a little teeny sliver just for the purposes of seeing it. And that's what you know. And then they make another little sliver, and they say, this is what you don't know, but you don't know it. So you know something, like I know how to drive a car, I know how to speak English, I know how to do a podcast, but I know it. And then the other little sliver is what I don't know. I don't know how to speak Swahili. I don't know how to dismantle an ICBM missile, but I don't know it. Now, if I want to learn how to dismantle an ICBM missile, I can learn how, and then I can put it over there in the no category. Yay! Yeah. And that's what humans do. We spend our entire lives putting what we don't know into the no category. But these little teeny slivers of what there is to know in the known universe. It's just knowledge. What else is left, right, is what we don't know. Yeah. And they said that. They said, it's what you don't know. Tell me something you don't know. We all tried to figure it out. Couldn't answer.
Can't talk.
Because it doesn't matter. There's nothing. And he said, that's what we give you access to.
Yeah.
Is what you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's the exploration of revealing what's hidden from us. That's those limiting obstacles that we put in our way on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
And then revealing them. And then getting to clear stuff out, man. It's liberating. Is all I can say.
Do you now know how to dismantle ICBM missiles?
I do. Okay. I do. I should put it on my resume.
I got a little worried there. I thought, well, I don't know who's listening in, but I don't know how to dismantle them. So don't put me on any blacklist.
My phone keeps clicking. I don't know why my phone keeps clicking.
Who's calling you? Tell them you're on a podcast.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Another thing I heard, adding to that, was that somebody once told me in a seminar, it was a seminar leader, said, does everybody get that they have some things probably that they don't know? Mm-hmm. And everybody raised their hand and they said, is anybody in here that thinks they know it all? And of course, nobody raises their hand. But there's a lot of know-it-all people in the world. And I used to be one of them. Well, sure. I'm fine. I know it all. And in that moment, I knew that, well, nobody's going to really admit they know it all. That means we all don't know it all. So why wouldn't we want to look into that area of the don't know that I don't know?
Yeah.
And once I entered that, I haven't turned back. It's almost like you go in and you realize there's so many corners and nooks and crannies that there's stuff to get.
The more I know,
why stop?
The more I know, the less I know.
Right? I like that. Yeah.
But I think it really
Maybe that's the name of the podcast.
You like that? We'll start a new one?
The more I know, the less I know.
Yeah. It's being able to...
Or then in parentheses, or how to dismantle ICBM missiles.
Exactly.
We could do that.
I think that's good. I like the subtitle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also, for me at least, setting the ego aside and accepting or allowing myself to be like, it's okay to say I don't know. That's a tough one, especially like when you have kids, right? They ask you all these questions and you want to know the answer. You want to be a superhero. Thank God for Google, right? Yeah. But literally, it's in life the same thing. It's like sometimes in my relationship with my wife or with my kids or in business or whatever it is, that ability to say, I don't know. What do you think? Is liberating and freeing as well. But we get so caught up in trying to look good and be right. And it just clutters it. It just clutters it.
I agree. I think I've come to terms with, I've lived a selfish life. Like I grew up in Europe. We were doing well as a family. We were like upper middle class. We had a family hotel. We were respected in the community. My parents were nice people, not very emotional or deep, but they were super nice and they were friendly and neutral as the Swiss are. And then I came over here and here I realized, I'm just I'm a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah.
And I started from scratch. But the one thing I liked about it is that everybody was supporting each other. At least in LA, there was this creative, like, hey, I'm shooting a movie. You want to help out? Hey, you got this script. Great, man. Write it. Finish it. Come to my class. Let's collaborate, right? And
Big
I
fan
love
of
that.
collaborating. Big fan of collaborating.
Yep. And same in the transformational community. I felt once I was in there, I've made such amazing new friends. People are committed to transforming their lives and make a difference. Now, how has your wife done transformational work?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. When we first started dating, I was just doing the first seminars. And I was so lit up and turned on by it, as I'm sure you can kind of recall, where all you're saying is a bunch of stupid shit they don't understand. And you sound like an alien.
Yeah.
And then they're looking at you like an alien and you're so like frustrated because they're not understanding you because you're talking another language. And anyway.
Jargon, right?
Jargon, exactly. Just the languaging that is landmark or any transformational coaching. There's a lot of those buzzwords and technology that if you took it, you understand. But if you didn't, you sound like a weirdo.
Yeah.
And especially once you have to assimilate that kind of language. I hadn't assimilated it. And so she was like, yeah, good. That's good for you. Good for you. And I was like, oh, why isn't she getting it? There's something wrong here.
Yeah.
She should be getting it.
Yeah.
After a year, actually, of some friend of hers, I think, had told her, because I'd done several seminars by then, some friend of hers said, you're in love with this guy, right? Yeah. You're going to be with him for a long time, you think, probably? Yeah. Now, if he spoke French, do you think you'd learn how to speak some French? And she said, wow. In that perspective, she was able to hear like, huh, okay, well, he has a language that he's speaking and I don't get it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something for me to get.
Look into it, yeah.
Yeah, so she looked into it and she did do it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome. She'd been doing so much work on herself already up to that point, which is one of the things that attracted me to her because I was kind of present to the fact that she was keeping her side of the street clean, which both attracted me and terrified me at the same time.
Of course, yeah.
Basically, when we first started dating, my, how long have you been with your wife?
13 years married, but 15 years together.
Okay, got it. Yeah, we just had our 16th year anniversary.
Nice. Yay!
Yeah. So again, same kind of time. Were you a single, wild and crazy guy? Were
Yes.
you yeah?
Before that, yeah.
Quite the rapscallion.
Absolutely.
I like to work rapscallion into my podcasts.
You just did.
Yeah, it's like a drinking game.
Yeah.
Even though I don't drink. But when we started dating, now I got myself all off center.
No worries. You were just asking me if I was wild and single before, obviously.
No, I was talking about dating and the fact that we. Oh crap!
We'll channel it.
If it's meant to be, it'll come back to me, won't it?
It'll come back.
Yeah.
So you were saying 16 years together.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We've been 16. Yeah, we've been together for 16 years. We only actually been dating for a year.
Same here.
Before I actually asked her to marry me, which was absurd in my world.
Really? Wait. Before you asked,
we met on June 28th, and I proposed to her the next year, June 28th.
Wow.
Yeah, which was
it was absurd
insane.
because you would have never thought you would
absolutely
get married.
not.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the switch actually occurred out of one of the courses I did.
Nice.
There was an awakening or awakening. So you say certain words and people go, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was
an awareness.
An
right?
awareness.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Something became present to me that I wasn't aware of. And it literally disappeared what was in the way of me having intimacy in my life.
Wow.
It was staggering. I mean, essentially, I had it that women can't be trusted. Like on a subconscious level. Like I believed that.
Did you also have early life girlfriends that cheated on you or left?
No. I was the one who always left first.
Well, me too, but that was because, in my case, because the early girlfriends, the first three, cheated on me or liked someone else and sort of squeezed me out. And then I was like, oh, I got to always leave early.
Yep.
And cheat on them so they can't hurt me.
So I won't be hurt. Exactly.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Similar, yeah.
Same idea.
Yep.
And once I realized that I had a story about women that wasn't true, I was able to trust. I was able to believe the possibility that women could be trusted and let her in. And it was the best thing I could have ever done, thank God. But there was no mistake that I married her because of the way she already was keeping her side of the street clean. I see, I just came back. So the game, being a single guy, we have a game, right? How do you pick up on women? How do you treat women? How do you date women? What do you do with women? You know, all of that is game, right? And you meet them, you date them, you go out with them. How often do you call them? When do you call them? What do you do on your first date? All that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a dance, right? And I never thought myself as a Casanova by any means, but what I realized when I started dating her was that my game evaporated within like a month or so. Like she saw right through everything. And it was terrifying. I was like, what? And it was like I just started to fall in love and fall in love and fall in love. And then it was kind of one of those things where like 6 months or 7 months or so, my mom said, "Are you in love with this woman?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, what are you waiting for? What's in the way?
Go, Mom.
Yeah. My mom hadn't even done any transformational.
Yeah.
She's like, "What's in the way?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I can't afford to, get a raise." She's like, "Is there a ring in the way?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, What if I remove that obstacle?"
Oh, nice.
I'm like, "Who the hell do you think you are, Tony Robbins?"
Yeah.
And so she did. She got a ring, and 6 months later, I asked my wife to
That's a
marry
great
me.
story.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because there's two thoughts I had. Let me see if maybe I'll need to make a note. I rarely make notes, but I'll make a note of this. Mm-hmm. But one thing that happened with my wife and I, I'm going to go there second. So you said something really interesting. You said like, I was dating and I was doing this thing. And then once I was with my wife, like intimacy was possible, right?
Yeah.
And this podcast, I started it as an exploration on intimacy. What is this thing, intimacy? People always say like, "Oh, I can't be intimate," and usually what comes up is sex for people when they hear, "Oh, I got intimate last night."
Right? So like the definition of intimacy.
Yeah. So that's literally what I've been exploring.
Yeah.
And there is no one definition, but I've come close to it, which is that when two people are in a space together and when they're vulnerably letting themselves be exposed to each other, and there's trust, then there's intimacy. It's almost like the authentic vulnerabilities connect, and they create this trust field that surrounds it, and then it's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think was missing?
Was that what they were talking about? Do you think Will Ferrell, when they talked about the trust tree?
No.
Are we in the tree of trust?
This is more of the tree bubble.
Right. No, I'm sorry.
I like that though.
No, but
Skinny branches.
Yes. No, but I completely agree. And I love the idea of even dismantling or really exploring words in and of themselves. I think we say words a lot, but we don't actually know what we're even talking about. To even say I love somebody, what do you mean by you love somebody? Or when you say you have integrity, what do you mean?
What is that?
What is that to you? And I think the same thing. I love intimacy as a conversation as well, because it's this. It could mean one thing to you. It could mean one thing to you, and it could mean one thing to me. However, there is something to be said about what it is,
and it's undeniably. It undeniably is what it is, because when you're in it, you go, "Oh, we have it.
Here we are."
Right?
Yeah.
Every human being will go, "Oh, that was nice."
So you had issues with intimacy as a young guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It came from, my parents were really sweet. My dad, we later suspected, was an in-closet gay or bisexual.
Wow.
Who lived in a very small town in Switzerland where it was not cool at all to say, "Hey, guys, I'm not going to do the married kids thing." And he had a family hotel he had to take over from his dad.
Right.
And he was adopted by his dad. When his mother, later mother, got pregnant by a stranger, this man stepped in and said, "I'll marry this woman who's pregnant," and became my dad's father. So in essence, I don't know if I'm a true Wyden, because my dad was not a Wyden. He impregnated my grandma.
Wow.
And left. And so Mr. Wyden came in, married my grandma, and then my dad was born. It sounds complicated, right?
It does sound complicated.
But basically, my dad was adopted by his dad.
I need like a chart.
We'll chart it out later.
Thank you.
But basically, my dad was adopted, and so he's given a family hotel in Switzerland. That's a prestige thing to step into.
Okay.
So him going like, "No thanks, I'm gay and I want to travel and expose, live an exposed life."
Yeah.
Wasn't going to happen. He was an interior designer, a creative, very creative.
Wow.
Nope, got to stop that. So he was so, in other words, suppressed by his environment and everything. So that was my dad. He never showed emotions. He never talked to us deeper than, "How was your day? Goodbye. I'll pick you up." None of that. Never saw him cry. Never saw him yell. No expression of feelings. My mom wore the pants. So my dad's in the feminine. My mom's in the masculine. Wow. She's wearing the pants. She's always yelling at us. She's like, "Come on!" She's basically making up for my dad's lack of masculine energy to put his foot down. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I grew up. My brother and I. My brother turned out to be an amazingly sensible guy, and me too, although I went more for the ego and selfish and women, and he was more of a bookworm and stay home, gentle soul, became a chef. So what happened later in life is that I realized intimacy equaled sex. I would meet women, and my first thought is, I'm attracted. How can I get her to sleep with me? Because if she sleeps with me, A, I get the pleasure of an orgasm and
validated,
sex, right? Validated. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It was ultimately validation, right? Pleasure,
I'm good
validation.
enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm lovable. I'm good enough. I'm all that.
So exactly. And I was chasing that up until my early 30s when I met my now wife, right?
Were you aware of the power of intimacy, whether you used it or not, or whether...
No.
The reason I say that is because women... I would say it's like I'm going to walk on eggshells here, or I'm just going to fall into a pit. But the idea that intimacy is attractive when you show your vulnerability as a man in a relationship, it tends to occur as attractive.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, when it's authentic, it's ridiculously attractive.
Yeah.
But if you're aware of that, you could also use it to your benefit, and it would be a facade.
So it's interesting that you say that. I had an idea a few years back. I told my wife, I think I want to make a documentary and go visit every single ex-girlfriend I've ever had.
Wow.
And that's probably about, 12, 13 serious relationships. Mm-hmm. And possibly even find some of the women I've had one-night stands with. Right?
Wow. How'd you do that?
Switzerland's not that big.
Oh, okay.
And over here, it was only maybe 5, 10 women and I kind of remember their names and, could probably look up 80% of them.
Put on APB on Facebook. Or...
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, wait, why don't I go back and interview them and say, how was I as a boyfriend?
Right.
Did I ever really look in? Did you ever feel like I was there? Was I listening?
Well, I think there's something to be said about levels of intimacy.
Yeah.
Because, I think I was aware of the fact that being connected worked in a relationship as far as feeling connected.
Togetherness.
It felt good. And it obviously led to a connected relationship, sex, all that. It all worked together. And that could be a one-night stand or it could be a 4-year relationship.
Yeah.
It was not a bad idea. However, it was really the question of how far I was going to let you in.
See, I wasn't even, you mean you were aware of that thought back then?
I think I was aware of,
because I wasn't.
It's interesting, right? It's like hindsight's 20/20.
I mean, maybe I would like to ask them, like, did you ever see me cry? Was I ever like, how emotionally available was I?
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so. I was very oblivious.
You might be right. No, you might be right. As I look back on it, can I actually say that I was aware of how available or unavailable I was?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well put.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I wanted to find out. But here's the interesting thing. I've talked to some of them, and they're all like, "Oh no, you were great. It was a good time. You were a very nice guy. You know." And I thought to myself, but what if I actually sought out women with a similar issue, right? So they also weren't really intimate. They were also looking for validation, and they just gave me their bodies because they're like, "Well, at least he loves me," and then I have a boyfriend, right? And then I noticed I've always been attracted to weak women. Not weak, but more softer, nicer women. And I've always been appalled by strong women. I can't, or I should say couldn't, handle strong women, right? Because that was my mom saying like, did you put on the sweater?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whenever a woman comes up to me in life, to this day, I'm now transforming it, I'm handling it, and I've been more comfortable with it.
Yep.
But whenever I see a woman who's in her masculine is like, yo, I just get this like, my body just goes like, okay, time to go, time to leave.
Yeah.
So I realized all the women I'd been dating or I was, like you said, the game when I'd go out, I would never pick the confident, super beautiful, powerful woman. I would go for what I call the weaker victim that I knew I could get, and I could dominate in a way so she wouldn't actually force me to look at myself.
Yes, very good point. That I have a similar thread as well, in the sense that I tended to find women who did not cause me to look at my own shit.
Yeah,
I could spend more time working on them or helping them or feeling like, oh, they're more broke than I am, kind of thing, which this is necessarily the truth. It's just in my crazy mind, it was like, they have more stuff to deal with. Their drama is more interesting, whatever it was. It became more the focus. So I never had to. And it, like kind of coming full circle to when I started dating my now wife and my game running out, I was suddenly left with, now what? I actually have to start looking at who I am in this, how I'm showing up in this. And so what did I do? I did just about everything I could to sabotage the relationship.
At the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I literally jumped on every single button possible to see if I could, and this is on a subconscious level. I wasn't consciously thinking. Like, I cheated on her. I cheated on her while we were dating. I got so shitty drunk one night before we were supposed to go out, where she had invited me to an event with like all kinds of her friends, where she was going to introduce her boyfriend, and I had to like call and tell her I couldn't make it because I was shitty drunk.
Shit-faced, yeah.
I mean, and she's got all that in her background anyway already. So it was like button number 2, button number 3. I was just like,
going for it.
Oh man. I was like, I will destroy this.
It's like those, what do you call them?
Whack-a-moles?
Whack-a-moles.
Yeah. Yeah. And I literally tried to do that. And the universe was like, no, we're not letting you out of this one. In fact, the woman who introduced me ended up becoming a champion of mine. Her dear friend is who introduced me to her and set up a blind date. That's how we met.
Nice.
And so when this all started to go down, and she was like, F y'all. I mean, she literally was like, hit the road. Her friends championed me, or said, give him another chance. Consider, whatever.
Well,
whatever they did, they had her, or she with them, figured out, let's give him another shot.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Very fortunate.
So this is great, right? I have so many thoughts. I mean, I think you're such a great guest for us to have this conversation with. Like, I'm just excited, and I have like 5 side notes, but I'm going to go with what's present, right?
Yeah.
So 2 things. You just said you cheated, and then you were given another chance, right? So those are 2 big topics. I want to talk about why men cheat, and we can only talk from our own experience, right? Mm-hmm. So we can both share. And then also, why should a woman give a man a second chance?
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Thank you.
Or vice versa. Now, you have
so
you have an experience where you've been married, you said 13 years. You've been together 15 years.
Yeah.
And did you cheat before you were married with other women?
No, it was. Oh, but wait, did I cheat?
Did you have other relationships, monogamous relationships, where you cheated?
Oh, I've cheated on every single woman relationship ever.
That's your thing. Yeah,
that was my.
You cheat.
Okay.
Yeah, got it. And now with your wife, same thing.
This happened about. I'm trying to think the year, but it was like 5 years ago, something like that. When we already had kids.
Got it.
So I know for me, and in retrospective, I'm now aware of what happened. Mm-hmm. We're both aware of what happened. Mm-hmm. And we're both taking 100% responsibility on each end. So it's not 50-50, it's like 100-100, right?
Yeah.
And we, what happened was having kids and that's already a challenge, as you know, to be together, to physically be together, to find time. Yeah. And she had a business. She had a successful business that she was running with a business partner. And they were so entrenched in the, not even 9 to 5, it's like a 8 to 7, right? Every day. And she was just driving it. And that drove me away because that had her become this sort of in the masculine kind of woman who's the businesswoman. Right. It reminded me of my mom, my grandma, all the strong women who are like were dominating my life.
And were you being the Mr. Mom?
I was being the Mr. Mom. I was the freelancer. I was the creative, the artist, hanging out, taking the kids to school, picking them up, right?
Yep.
Cooking. I love to cook.
Yep.
And so I was in the feminine.
Yep.
Most of the time. And what I realize now is what happened is I would go out, because there was a point in time where I realized I hadn't actually flirted with a woman for 10 years since I've been married. Not even a flirt.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
I know what you mean.
Right?
Yeah, it almost like something gets switched off.
Yeah, but then I thought, wait a minute, I'm kind of out of shape. I got to go back to the gym. I got to, it was like, I need to feel better. But then I did that.
Were you doing that because you wanted to feel better or because you wanted to look better for other women?
I think it was both, but mostly I felt like, well, if no other woman's looking at me at mid-40s, like I'm missing the boat here, right? My wife does not have an attractive husband. No one else is looking at me. And obviously selfish reasons like, hey, how come no woman's looking at me, right?
Right.
Want me, please?
Yeah.
Approval.
Love me.
So I got a trainer for a year. I worked out and I got in great shape. And I also took lots of transformational work. So I'd always been like, very inspiring and happy. And suddenly,
doing some work from the inside out.
From the inside out, exactly. Yeah. Thank you. And from the outside in. And so then suddenly it happened where 1 month there was like 3-4 women. I would randomly meet women. One of them put a phone number on my car after she'd seen me with my kids and my wedding ring, right? I was like, what's happening?
That in and of itself always creeps me out.
I was like, whoa. But what happened was I realized now is that I was stepping into my masculine, right? Because I was working out. I felt strong. I was giving that off. And women, and what happened, what I realized is who I attracted were women that were really in their feminine. Because that's what was missing for me in my relationship, right? And so those are the women that I would feel attracted. Those are not the women I cheated with, by the way. My cheating was strip clubs, massage parlors. It was more of a very non-personal,
super shallow.
I don't need no intimacy, right? I don't need to see the face. I need the person. Like, it doesn't matter, right? I always knew my wife is my life partner and she's the one. Right. I didn't want another relationship or actually go look for women. So, but what happened when I started flirting with these women, I realized, wait a minute, I'm attracted always to easy targets. And, which I used to be anyway, and very feminine women who were just making me feel masculine.
Right.
And so then when my wife and I approached that point where I told her that I was cheating, where I told her that something's not working, and we worked through it. It was very rough. There's many episodes on that.
Now, when you said you were cheating, so you started flirting, then it went past flirting to actually having sexual relationships, cheating?
No, I kind of went reverse order, sorry. So the cheating part, the strip clubs and massage parlors happened first.
Oh, in the marriage.
Yeah.
Got it.
Then I admitted it. Then we worked through it.
Got it.
And then there was a second phase where I suddenly became more confident and started working out and wanted to be in better shape. So it was kind of like a 2.0 of like, well, I guess
Pardon me.
Yeah, no worries. I still need something. Something's still missing, right?
Right.
And so that's what I realized is like, wait a minute, I'm being lazy. I'm not causing my wife to be able to step into her feminine, to feel safe, protected, taken care of. And I can be that guy for her, right? So that's what we're working on now. I kind of jumped ahead. But what I got was, in my opinion, me or men, I'm going to say man cheated because I just didn't feel like I was getting feminine energy and I didn't feel I was in my masculine. Not blaming her. Like, this is my responsibility. I was lazy.
So, right. So I'm obviously curious simply because of the fact that this is what you, at least up to that point, this is your MO.
Yeah.
Was this go around similar? Like, were you trying to feed the same beast, fill the same hole?
The second go around?
No, in your marriage cheating compared to your single life, in other relationships cheating.
Yeah, I think it had to do with MO, one, right? Yeah. The past, that's what you do. You sort of, but it had
why in your mind, where in your mind did you say it was okay to cheat?
That's a great question. What I was getting to is it had a new flavor. It was the same MO, but the flavor now was, what if I'm missing out? What if this isn't it? And what if I get to 60 and the voice of reason says, that's actually not the life you were meant to live. You were meant to be the vagabond, Burning Man, polyamorous, sexual guy who moves through life and just, tastes
this was the
flavor.
married guy conversation about
this
cheating.
Is my what if I'm missing out here? What if the grass is greener on the other side? Right. And so similar MO, but it just had me go, maybe I need a little something extra. So I was always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That's what I realized until very recently, where I was able to tell my wife, I'm 2 feet in, because I had to choose. Tell me what you think. As a man, you can go two ways. You can be committed or not committed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
That's it. It's like being pregnant or not pregnant.
Yeah. And you choose.
That's it.
And if you're committed, then you choose to get the benefits of a committed relationship. Right. And if you're not committed, you got to be ready that maybe you'll find out later having been committed would have been better or not. I mean, there's no answer. Like, you just have to choose one.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you've had your own conversations. I've had my own conversations around just the notion of integrity in and of itself.
Yeah.
What is integrity?
What is it for you?
The elusiveness of what integrity is and the fact that we think that we have it. Like, it's something, I have integrity. Yeah, I'm a guy I have integrity.
It's more like a character. Like, you have character.
I think it's a moment. I think integrity is a choice.
Yeah.
I think it's something that is an action that we take. So if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
It's actually, you brought it.
It's doing what I say I'm going to do because I said I was going to do it.
Yeah.
Is a simple way of, explaining integrity, I think, for me. It's being your word.
Yeah.
And now there's different levels, I think, of integrity, right? Like there's the integrity that says, I'm going to be here at 11:30 for our podcast.
Yeah.
And I show up.
Yeah.
That's a level of integrity.
Yeah.
There's also the level of integrity that is me walking in here and seeing a piece of garbage on the ground and picking it up when no one's looking and throwing it away.
Yeah.
That's a level of integrity as well.
Yeah.
So, and then another level of integrity is making a vow to your wife saying,
for better or for worse.
For better or for worse, you're mine, I'm yours, period. No one else is coming in. We're monogamous and going out.
Yeah.
That's breaking your integrity.
Exactly. I broke my word.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Or I didn't own my word at the time when I said it. I was like, yeah, whatever, vows, I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's just the half one leg in, one leg out kind of thing. And it's what's really interesting. It's kind of like the same thing of, I don't want to say the word lazy, although there is something lazy about it, but there's something about it being stingy. Mm-hmm. It's that idea of like when someone says to you, hey, I'd like to give you something. And you say, no, that's okay. And you turn someone down from being of service to you or giving you a gift. And you say, no.
Yeah.
There's something stingy about that because you're disallowing that person to have the benefit of being generous. Mm. Right? So there's something stingy about that.
It just reminded me of something. Sorry to jump right in here. But I recently declared for myself, or I should say, I created this little radar system on how to spot women who are in their feminine. For the most part.
Is it an app on my phone?
No, it's not an app. It's very simple. And this has nothing to do with trying to pick up women, right?
Okay.
This has to do with like just noticing in life, like, oh, there's one. Oh, there's not one. And anybody can prove me wrong. This is obviously a speculation.
Sure.
But let's say you're on an airplane and a woman comes in with a little, what do you call it, carry-on? Mm-hmm. And the man stands up and says, can I help you put that up there? And if they go, no, I got it, they're in their masculine.
Yes.
And if they go, oh, thank you, they're in their feminine, because they're allowing a man to step into masculine. And it sounds like old school, what is it called? I can't think of the term. Like
chivalry?
Yeah. But it really is that simple.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with, as a man, you always should open the door. And as a woman, no, that's not a law or a rule, but it does show that.
Well, there's a symbiosis happening in the relationship, that give and take.
Yeah.
A woman could hold the door open for me too.
Yeah,
at some point, and I'd say thanks. I'm not going to say no, I got it. Unless I wanted my masculine to take over, I suppose.
Yeah,
but there's that back and forth.
And my wife would notice sometimes that I would hold the door open for beautiful women, but sometimes not for her. Now I know that's a big no-no.
Ouch!
But it was subconscious.
Totally.
And what I would do is I would hold the door open for feminine women, and sometimes not for women that were in the masculine.
Interesting.
And it was so subtle and. I felt like such a jerk when I realized it, and I apologized to her. And now I always, make sure, like, she's my queen.
Yeah.
And she's so switched into her feminine. She's activated it, and she's working on it. She has a coach. And I'm stepping into my masculine. I'm still a toddler. But
so I'm curious.
Yeah.
Simply because of the fact that this is not the first time you had cheated, and it sounds like you cheated multiple times in the relationship, cheated multiple times before the relationship. Mm-hmm. What was the line in the sand that just said, uh-oh, this isn't really working? Were you caught? Did you actually call yourself out?
I did.
You called yourself out? Yeah,
I was actually reviewing the advanced course at Landmark.
Oh, well, that'll do it.
10 years later or something like that. And we were in a group and I was sharing, and one of the guys goes, by when? Are you going to tell her? I was like,
man.
Tonight.
Where's your phone? Why don't you call her right now?
Oh my God. I was so scared,
Totally.
And I did it, and it was really intense. And I'm glad I did, though, because I knew that eventually I'm either going to get caught, I'm going to risk the lives of our family.
Yeah.
Something's going to go wrong. And I just knew. I was just like you said, you pick up a little piece of trash outside because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. I just felt like, look, I'm a hypocrite. I'm doing all these transformational workshops about authenticity and integrity.
And then you're coaching people on it.
And I'm coaching. Well, I wasn't at the time.
Okay.
But it was like, I can't do it. I gotta tell her. I gotta come clean so we can actually have a relationship that works.
It's funny you say that because I when we were dating and monogamous, I ended up going home with a girl at this event that I was doing. She was not there. I went home with this other girl. Again, we were dating, so we weren't living together.
Yeah.
And she had like reached out to me and I didn't respond and that kind of thing. And I went home with the girl, didn't tell my girlfriend, and it just kind of went past. Right now, again, I was in a similar seminar type of situation where it's literally when you go into a seminar where you're really like looking under the hood and taking your pants down and taking a long, hard look at who you are and what you're up to. It's like putting an octopus on your face. I mean, you can't get away from anything.
It's there. Yeah.
It's right there. And that's what ended up happening. And I tried to wiggle my way out of whether or not I should or could not tell her.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I don't have to tell her. Well, she'll never know, right? And I'm not going to do it again. And I remember having a conversation with a very dear friend of mine, in fact, the one who introduced me to the seminars in the first place. I said, do I have to? She's like, if you have to ask me, then what do you think? And it was like you said, it was like, that was terrifying. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That's like the worst idea. Because you ask anybody else, they'd say, don't tell her anything. She'll never know. Yeah. But it's like, it's the idea that if I was going to have a relationship with this woman ongoingly, if she was going to be my wife, the mother of my children, I was going to spend my life with her, and I didn't clean this up. All I saw it was like a sliver in your paw that just gets infected and it festers, and then they have to cut your foot off. It's just, it was just going to become like a cancer.
Yeah.
And it became so unattractive to not tell her. What do they say? We make choices in life for two reasons: pain and pleasure.
Yeah.
I was able to create enough pain to make the choice a better call than not. Of course, I told her and she kicked me out of her place, and broke up with me.
Yeah.
But again, like I told you also, she gave me a second chance.
Worked through it.
I worked through it. I did. I worked through it, and we have worked through it. And I have not had anything like that. And I was like, I'm not going to lie to my wife in my relationship. It just doesn't work. No matter how easy it might be.
Right.
I mean, I had the same thing happen with my sobriety. That was the one I actually realized I had to get my head really removed from my ass, because I was sneaking around and drinking and telling her I wasn't drinking and hiding bottles and for like 2 years. And here I am like saying, oh, I don't lie to my wife, when all I'm doing is lying to her about my drinking.
Yeah.
And it was when I finally got, this really isn't working. And like, same thing for you. I don't want to lose what has the potential to be the most amazing and important thing in my life, which is my relationship with my wife and my amazing children. Much less the idea of just being sick and dying of alcoholism. Right. Because it's a progressive illness. It's only going to get worse. And like you called yourself out. I called myself out. I mean, not entirely true. In fact, one of my episodes of my podcast, my wife and I discussed this. She actually kind of called the ball ultimately, which is exactly what I needed. I was ready, but I needed a swift kick in the balls. And she was incredibly loving about it, but she was like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
And I, for the first time on that Thursday night, said out loud, I don't know how to stop. It was the first time I ever said it out loud.
Yeah.
And talk about vulnerable, right?
You would have.
Talk about intimacy.
Yeah.
That was
right.
that was real. Intimacy, man.
Yeah.
It really was. I was literally like, all the Jordanness in me that wants to keep it together, that wants to look good.
Yeah.
Disappeared.
Out the window, yeah.
It was gone. And all I had was, I don't know.
It's interesting what you said. Thanks for sharing that. When you said that, it's either pain or pleasure, right? And I think why a lot of men have a hard time admitting it, or why they're sneaky or they're lying about it, is because they know that if they're going to their wife to come clean, that there's a lot of pain through emotional, distress that's going to be caused over there, right? With the wife. Let's just say husband to wife.
You're going to hurt them.
You're going to hurt them.
Yeah.
But I think, and I've analyzed this recently, I looked at that and I said, look, I think it's because we're raising our children. We have a society that wasn't raised, to express their emotions, and that there's nothing wrong with expressing emotions, right? You can just let someone express them.
Right.
And then B, take responsibility. And if those two things were taught, like a common way to deal with any kind of pain or any kind of distress that one causes another, then we wouldn't have all this fear of like, I can't tell her because she's going to get upset. This is pain. I don't want to cause pain. Because in essence, what men are saying, and I know women also cheat on men, but let's just stay with men since we're men. What men are saying is like, well, I cheated, but I don't really have the courage or the balls to tell her because I don't know how to handle her emotions, and I don't know how to take responsibility from that. Right?
That's right.
And that's why we don't. So in essence, it's a nice thing. I don't want to hurt you, but it's not
selfish.
It's selfish.
Completely.
It's not love. It's selfish.
Yeah.
And obviously later on causes even more pain. But that brings me to the getting a second chance.
Yeah.
Right? Why do you think you deserved a second chance?
Why do I think, God, you know what? I don't even think I gave it a thought. I don't think I thought I deserved a second chance necessarily. I hoped I would get a second chance.
So there was a little bit of thinking of fighting of like, no, I do want to be with you. Like, please hear me out. Or I don't know.
I think the reason I told her was because I believed the possibility that we would be. And I didn't want that lie to be present in what I would hope would be something more pure, something more complete, without that in the space. And again, whether she knew it or not, it's like I knew it. That's the tricky thing about it, right? It's like I knew. And so I think, why do I think I wanted or why do I think I deserved a second chance? See, I don't know. Deserve is such a weird word, I think, sometimes, like you owe me something because I did something for you.
Yeah.
Right? That's when I think about deserving. It's like, I don't know if there's a weird connotation for me with deserving. But I guess I wanted to have the chance to show up better than I had.
Yeah.
And to show her that I wasn't that guy. Because honestly, like I said, I was pushing every single button possible.
Yeah.
Right? I really didn't do that kind of stuff. The drunk that I got that time where I messed up her party that I was supposed to go to, I'd never been that drunk in my life. Huh.
It was all bringing it up, like all this stuff.
Yeah. So I was doing everything. I was doing a lot of things to an extreme. So I think, and I said this to her, actually, I don't know when I said it, and it really was honest and not cheesy, but there was an absolute inspiration to be a better man.
I can relate.
I wanted to be my best self.
You wanted to be the person that she saw through you when she met you.
I guess.
It's like, you are a great guy.
Yeah. I wanted to be bigger than
it's like that.
I was allowing myself to be.
The statue of David inside of the marble, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She saw the statue. And you and I both, we've had so much marble clayed around it that it was like, she's like, no, I believe in you. I know there's a great guy in there.
I guess so. I think I wanted to be that in an authentic way. Like I wanted to be it for me and I wanted to be it for her. I wanted it to be for us. I mean, my wife and I have as far as I'm concerned, a partnership, like we're a team, and I'm so grateful that we are on the same page with our lives. There was a time in our lives where we weren't on the same page.
A lot of people aren't even in the same book.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's an issue.
Exactly. Yeah. And my wife and I have had periods in our relationship like that, where we were kind of like in our own camps. So, So what is my question? Answer that question?
Absolutely. I think so.
Now, what about you? Did you want a second? You obviously wanted a second chance. Were you hoping that she would like cut bait and leave you?
Yeah, there was definitely a moment that was very recent, 5 or 6 months ago, is when we sort of explored, like, well, I told her, I said, maybe we need an open relationship because I feel that need to be with other women physically, not as in like another partner, not like a triage of living in, that kind of thing, not a relationship with more emotional and, it was just physical.
Right.
And that was a rough time. And we ended up sort of playing around with it. And she actually was the first who met someone who she thought because she at some point said, very honestly said, I could envision myself having two husbands, not live-in, not sexual, but just like two men that I'm in partnership with to create things in the world, right?
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
How'd that feel?
I was actually kind of like, I was open to it because I thought, well, that might give me a chance to then say, well, then for me, all I need is once in a while another woman, right? Physically, like pleasure.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit selfish in accepting it, like, oh, good. So now I can, right?
Yeah.
But there was also a little bit of like, well, I don't want to clip her wings. If that really makes her happy, then let's talk about it. Let's explore it. And then there was an element of like, ooh, what does that mean, right?
Sure.
And then that didn't work out because we realized as we kept talking and figuring it out, there was just so much time and energy, not wasted, but invested away from our kids. And we're like, what are we doing? Stop.
It's so great though that what you're saying though is so important is people say, oh, communication's important. Communication's fucking important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
totally.
Because you guys talked out what you hadn't talked out. And if you hadn't talked it out, it would have just been kind of dancing around in your minds.
Or taboo or whatever.
And, I can't have it. Or I want to have it, but he won't let me. And and you haven't even discussed it. And then you like air it out.
Yeah.
And you work it through, and suddenly you realize that's a terrible idea. You know what I mean? But you wouldn't have known it unless you talked.
We're standing in front of the fridge. We had just spent 2 hours, 1 hour at the pool, 1 hour upstairs, while our kids were just waiting for us to be with them.
Right.
And we stopped and we're like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, yeah, in theory, this sounds great, but is that pleasure or that vision really worth not being present with our children? We're like, no, that's not working.
Done.
And I want to also add that those conversations are never easy, A. B, every time we have another conversation like that coming up, it's the same hard, like almost nervous kind of way to talk about it. It's never like, oh, we've done it 3 times, the 4th time is easier, because it's not like we do it every day. So my wife and I are committed, though, to say, look, I told her the other day, I said, look, if you suddenly come to me and you say, I want to go to India for 6 months to explore my inner goddess, blah, 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 whatever, I would say to her, awesome, let's talk about it. Not ideal because we have 2 kids and 6 months is a long time, but I'll never say no, because if she really wants to explore something and that really gives her, I don't want to say pleasure, that's the wrong word, but satisfaction, fulfillment, I'm game. Because that's my life partner. Why would I clip her wings?
Absolutely. Why? No, I think that, again, communication, it's comfortable or not. At the end of the day, again, it also comes back to intimacy. You're allowing yourself to be super vulnerable. She's allowing herself to be super vulnerable. And on the other side of that, miracles can happen. On the other side, literally things you couldn't have imagined come out of it, but you would have never known unless you stepped into it.
Absolutely. And the one thing that we always say,
out of fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for adding that, because I think out of fear of having to go through what we now call in society pain, which really is just strong emotions, right? Of the fear of having to go through that, most people will never stand up and actually voice a desire, a need or something, right? Because it's just a conversation. You don't have to, like, if you say, when I said, I think I need to be with other women, well, I didn't do it. I just said that. I just said, can we talk about that?
Right.
And we did, and it was uncomfortable. She went through spaces. I went through spaces. We cried. There was some fuck yous. Like, but it was all in this inside of like, you have the right to be upset, because that's a very, not awkward. That's a very, quote unquote, uncomfortable conversation to have. And I'm putting something on her, lots of women that were probably listening to that episode were like, well, F this guy. Like,
sure,
what is he, who does he think he is?
I guarantee you there were people, women who were saying that.
And probably men too. Like, well, you're a jerk, whatever. You're not a dad. Who cares? But my point was like, look, all I did is express like authentically, vulnerably, here's a desire. Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
And if we did that as partners, and you know how it is, what's available, like you said, on the other side, to me, it's just such the intimacy is so great. You feel elated. You're like, we're in partnership, you said.
Yeah.
In the same book.
The connectivity is untangible. You can't explain it.
That is the glue.
Yes. And you literally feel it.
Yeah.
And your attraction to one another increases.
Every time we have one of those conversations,
you've got to have
a few days later, we're like, kids, go to bed early. Lock in but serious, it's a metaphor.
It's a turn on.
Right? It's a turn on.
It is.
Vulnerability is a turn on, people.
Get some.
Maybe that's the episode name.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is an aphrodisiac. How about that?
Vulnerability as an aphrodisiac.
I got to at least write it down.
I feel like I asked my wife, because of this podcast, obviously we talk about a lot of things that you don't normally talk about in front of thousands of people, right? And that's what podcasts are. Yeah. And I'm all for open conversations. I mean, my show Breakthroughs is exploring that line between breakdowns and breakthroughs. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, is there anything that you would be uncomfortable with me talking about? And here I am talking about, having a cheating on her. Now, here's the thing is, I wasn't married to her when we were cheating. Doesn't justify the fact that I cheated on her, but we had an agreement. We had an agreement that we were monogamous. And this is how guilty I was feeling about it, no matter how much I wanted to do it just for my own ego, right?
Yeah.
Super pretty girl, likes me. I'll take advantage of this situation. I didn't even sleep with her.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can relate to that.
We were intimate, but I didn't sleep with her.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm like, was that cheating? Yeah, it is. I broke my word. So, I mean, it's these like little fine, crazy things we make up in our mind.
Yeah, but you could go back to, there's 2 points of view on this. You could go back to your vows and say, I didn't actually say, or no, I should say it this way. We didn't actually define what cheating would be. Or, do you know what I mean?
We weren't even married yet.
Huh?
We weren't married yet.
No, well, okay, I'm just saying in a case of a...
Yes, like a contractual
marriage,
agreement. Like
you have a contract.
Right, exactly.
And now the lawyer could come in and say, well, hold on here.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, does it describe flirting as cheating, or is it kissing, or is it when, or even thinking about seeing someone again? Where do you draw the line?
I know.
And I think it's important to do that.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be in the vows that you deliver in front of your family, but I think that it's important to look at and go, what is cheating to you and what is not? And what are your concerns about from your past? People cheated on you. Like those conversations are not facilitated in this society.
That's another conversation you can have.
Yeah, you can just Google vows, download, adjust, and go. That's what most people do.
That's right.
Seriously. Or they go to a card store, right? Or whatever, wedding store.
Yeah.
Here's some vows. So what's interesting is that we both kind of went through similar things, right? We both, and I think that maybe this episode I'm thinking more is something in the neighborhood of why do men cheat, or something in there, because we both talked a little bit about where we were at, our backgrounds, second chance maybe.
Sure. And I also think, speaking specifically to the ping pong notion of things, right, is looking at that line where it sounds like, had a breakthrough in your experience with fidelity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you made an agreement with your wife to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not to
be fidel.
I know, right? It's not fidel, is it? No, you made an agreement with your wife not to cheat, essentially, when you got married. That's kind of an unspoken, I'm getting married to you and only you, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason, you did it numerous times. You broke your word numerous times. And then you stopped.
Yeah.
Would you consider that a breakthrough in your relationship?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like monumental breakthrough, like looking back on it, you're not the same person you are now that you were then?
But it started, and yes, to answer the question, absolutely. And it didn't happen, and this is an interesting story. Being an artist, you can relate. Many artists listening can relate. Basically, around the time when we were thinking of maybe opening up the marriage.
Oh, right.
I go to this acting class in Venice called Raw Acting Class, and it's amazing. It's one of the best spaces to go into as a human, because it's not just creative, it's also transformational. And I had this idea. I'm like, why don't I make a movie about a couple who's dealing with maybe opening up their relationship? Because that's what I'm going through, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember my acting coach looking at me that night, and I was confused. I was like, I don't know, whatever. I hadn't even voiced it. And he looks at me and he says, you need to make a sex film. And I was like, whoa. What are you talking about? What do you mean? What like what? Right? And he said, I don't know. You'll see. You'll tell me what it is, right? So I decided. There was a couple in the acting class, and they were dating, and they were just so beautifully raw with each other, and they just started and had this amazingly beautiful relationship, and they were kind of on the edge of maybe opening it up. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to cast those two. We're going to write it together, shoot a film, which we did. And this film has everything from cheating to a porn star stars in it. There's drugs. There's the young kid, the older kid. You could say all my past ways of being, like my young self as a party guy doing drugs. I wasn't a big drug user, but for the film you amp it up a little bit. And there was sex, there was the porn star, the fantasy, there was the couple that's committed, there's the couple that's not, there's the so all of that was packed into a film, and we shot for 7 days. And being around all that for 7 days, the moment we wrapped, I felt this cathartic coin drop. It was like, I'm done. I mean, I don't want to live through that again. That life that's my past.
That's great though. That's a breakthrough to me.
That was to me real art.
Yeah. But I mean, I really hear that as like a breakthrough.
Oh, big breakthrough.
And I mean, the term transformation, as opposed to like you changed, you transformed.
Oh, absolutely.
You, on a cellular level, are not the same person that you are now as a result of doing that film. Yeah. And that's how I look at what I consider like a breakthrough or even a transformation. So that's great. Good, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing the film.
It was. It's going to take a while, but yeah, it was a beautiful film. It's called 7 Days because it was shot in 7 days and takes place in 7 days.
Got it.
And we'll see what it turns out to be because it was improvised. So all the dialogue is improvised.
That's cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And what happened though is I felt like my 1 foot out the door was slowly sliding back in, and I was 2 feet in the door, and my wife came over after the wrap party, and we stayed at the location because it's a friend's house. And that night I was like, I looked at her and I said, I'm in. Wow. Like I'm really in.
Wow.
And that took 15 years of being together to actually be committed.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really great. It makes me think of kind of one of those crystallizing moments that I had. In fact, actually, it's one of the things that kind of spurred the conversation that I ended up having, the woman who kind of lit the fire under my butt about writing a book, and that became the podcast, that kind of thing. In fact, I interviewed her. Kate Somerville is one of the women I interviewed. And
she's the one in New York? Or?
She lives in Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay.
She lives in Santa Barbara. Kate Somerville is it's a huge international skincare line that she created here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's the episode that you sent me.
Yes. Yep. So Kate is awesome, and we were having dinner in Vegas. And it was a crazy thing because having been a guy who enjoyed his party favors in my day, going to Vegas like anybody, that's game on. And we were invited to a friend's birthday party, 50th birthday party, and it was carte blanche. Like we were literally G4 picked us up in Los Angeles, flew us to Caesar's Palace, stayed in the villas, suites in Caesar's Palace, everything you could possibly want, 24/7. I mean, on tap. Yeah. It was a wet dream. I mean, now it would have been even more of a crazy wet dream, and I would have had a very different experience had I not been sober. But I had a great time. I was the only sober one there. There was like 16 of us, and I was the only sober one there. Yeah. And I was having a conversation over dinner with Kate about it, and I was sharing with her about that experience that I had that's similar but different in the sense of a transformative experience where I haven't had a drink in over 5 years. So when people say, how long have you been sober?
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink in over 5 years. But about 4.5 years ago, I was hospitalized for some cockamamie, God only knows what. I was in the hospital for 5 days, and I had acute pain that ended up being some crazy thing on my lung, and other story. Either way around it, I was given pain meds and all kinds of permission to take, these cocktails of pain medication.
Vicodin or whatever.
Right. So I'm in the hospital, and anybody who's ever been in the hospital or been on pain meds, they'll ask you, what's your rate of pain, your grade of pain from 1 to 10, right? 10 being extreme, 1 being not there, really. I'm starting to have this conversation with myself where I'm grading myself as to how much pain I'm in to give myself permission to take more pain medication. Not a good place for someone like me to have that kind of power.
Yeah. Or anyone, right?
Right. But for me, especially being sober, I was sober at that point. And I was in the hospital and starting to have this conversation and starting to be kind of present to the fact that I was like, am I in pain? I mean, 5 is 5 pain. I mean, 6. I mean, I'm not 9, but I mean, I'm definitely not at 3. I mean, I'm feeling pain. You know, I'm having a inner dialogue justifying numbing out.
Yeah.
Right. And being okay with it because they said it was okay. And it was like, that's crazy. Right. Wow. And so I got out of the hospital. I was given a bottle of Vicodin to take home. Should have given it to my wife. Didn't. And on the bottle, it said, take 1 for pain. So that's how it was prescribed. Now,
take 10 for pleasure.
Take 10 if you fucking want. Yeah. And so I got home. And again, that continued. That conversation by myself continued as to, well, I mean, it's a 6, 7. I mean, it's pain, right? I mean, pain. I'm in pain. I mean, I don't want that pain. Yeah. And so I would take 1. And I'd take another 1, you know, kind of thing. One night, I took 2. And didn't feel my, you know, again, I hadn't done drugs. I hadn't been drinking. And I took 2 Vicodin. And I just basically didn't feel myself from my neck down. Which essentially is high. Yeah. You're high.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my mind was wide awake. And I was abundantly clear that I had crossed the line. No one else knew it. My wife wasn't home. Yeah. No one knew. They would have never known. But I was a mess in my mind about it. I was like, what have I fucking done, you fucking idiot? You know what I mean? I just started beating myself up. But what I got really present to, which was so powerful, was I had this character, this image of a character become present to me in the sense that I was having a conversation with myself about how many pills to take or not take based on the pain I was in. And it kind of, it presented itself as a cartoon character.
Wow.
Like from when I was a kid, where it was like the wolf leaning against the flagpole in the zoot suit with the long hat and the big feather and the chain and the cigarette, flipping a coin, going, psst, hey kid, over here. Right? That was the conversation I was having.
Wow.
And I got present to the fact that I was having a conversation with my disease. And it became apparent to me that I wasn't my disease. Like I had it like,
so that was the breakthrough moment.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was monumental.
Wow.
I mean, it was literally, I don't think I really got how monumental it was at the time, but I basically the next day had a conversation with my sponsor. I said, look, this is what happened. And many people would say, so what, move on, right? Yeah. He said, you know what? This is your recovery. It's your program. And so I reset my sobriety clock and started over again. It happened to be Valentine's Day, just over 4 years ago. And, which was kind of great because I'm not a big fan of Valentine's Day. I think it's a stupid, shitty, made up bullshit Hallmark. Yeah, I don't need to be told when to tell my wife I love her.
Right. It's a commercial day, basically.
Completely.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I kind of got to take ownership of Valentine's Day as a love me day.
Yeah.
But it felt really good to start from a clean slate with a new experience of what sobriety meant to me.
Yeah.
And the notion that my disease doesn't have me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not run by it.
I'm not run by it. I've been run by it. I can be run by it. But as long as I can stay present to it, as long as I can witness it, observe it, which is kind of how I felt like I was able to do with the wolf, you know? I don't know. It gave me a perspective. So anyway.
No, that's great. I love those moments because no matter what that is for us, like if it's a breakthrough, who cares how it shows up?
Totally.
What do you mean you saw a cartoon character? It doesn't matter.
No.
It's about the awareness of you being separate from that, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it kind of ties into it's a different subject, but you'll see what I mean. So I'm in MITT's legacy program, which is a leadership program. And last night, that's just one example of an exercise that really hit home. It's called feedback. And this feedback was you would stand in front of 10 people, so that would be you standing, and then you have 10 people lined up behind each other to talk to you, right, to face you.
Okay.
And what you do is...
You're talking to 10 people.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
You're just standing there, open body, and you basically say what it's like to be in a relationship with me. As a friend, as a participant, right?
Yep.
And then each person comes up and says what it's like to be in a relationship with you is... And at the beginning, you start by saying, I think what it's like to be in a relationship with me is I'm fun, I'm funny, I'm creative, whatever, right? And then people come up and from love tell you honestly what it's like for them. And you got to let it wash over you.
Yep.
And it's brutal. And it's not brutal because people are being mean.
No.
They're saying some things that could land as mean. Right? Somebody got the, you have a God complex. Somebody actually turned their back on someone and said, here's what it's like to be with you.
Wow.
They just turned around.
Wow.
Right? So you get like, holy shit, this is how I show up in the world.
Yeah. No, we failed to actually ever, I think, ask ourselves that. And it's like, how do I occur? Right? Like, how do I show up over there with you? And we think we've got it. We think we've got it one way, and it's oftentimes not necessarily that way. It can be a lot of that way.
I think it's,
But there's also many times where you're like, my wife actually remember telling me, were you done? I feel like your exercise.
I'm getting somewhere, but I think you're going there. So
but just my wife actually said to me, she didn't come right out and say it. Somebody else had made a comment about me being a certain way. Somebody who didn't really know me very well. And like, you're kind of aloof or that kind of thing. And I was like, aloof? Really? Me? Huh? She's like, yeah, honey, you have an asshole resting face.
That's interesting.
I was like, what? No, I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
You get to know me. I'm easy going. I'm like easy to smile and laugh. I'll take the piss out of myself. It's like, but it was something interesting to observe.
Yeah.
Her observation, not from a mean place. Just like, yeah, honey, you kind of can come off like aloof.
That's exactly where I was going. What I got present to and what it was all about last night was about that is love. Because that's someone actually telling you because they know your higher self, right? So my wife and I started doing this. We give each other feedback. Like last night I came home and I asked her, I said, I had a week of being a captain, a coach for 4 other participants, right? That's part of the training. And I told her, I said, this week was stressful for you, for me. Like I was literally on the phone and texting and writing down and going to meetings. It was nonstop.
Right.
I slept maybe 4 hours a day for the last week, right? And I told her, I said, just want to check in. What's your feedback? How was I during this week? And she had great things to say, of course. And then at the end, she said, but you definitely dropped the ball on the family. There was definitely some stuff that you weren't present, And I was like, got it.
Yeah.
And because I knew it. It wasn't like, oh, that's not true.
No.
I knew it, but I feel like we often don't want to hear it.
No.
Because we feel that, that means I'm a bad person.
Or I did it wrong.
I'm
bad.
I'm bad.
Yeah. I look bad.
Or don't point out my shit and I won't point out your shit.
Right.
And to me, what I got present to, because I'm so passionate about relationships, is like a relationship that doesn't allow for the individuals to give each other feedback and not get hostile against each other is not a loving relationship. There's no love there.
Well, exactly. And I think when you said, we talked earlier about the definition of words, for me, one definition of love is to love the other for who they are and who they are not.
Yeah.
And let that be. Let it be present.
Yeah.
Not make it mean anything, not love them any less because of, but love them.
Now take that to the ultimate challenge, right? Say, okay, so you love your husband. He cheated.
Right.
Well, that's who he are and who he's not. Because he's not, when you met him, that was an amazing man in there, right?
Right.
So now I know that's challenging and I don't want this to land the wrong way, but even that coming from love can just be something to work out. Not, we're done.
Completely.
Because we're done means I'm not willing to accept that part of you.
I'd have a really tough time. I'm not saying I wouldn't be able to do it.
If your wife cheated?
Yeah. I'm not saying I wouldn't.
Yeah. Me too.
Wouldn't figure it out.
Absolutely.
But I would need some serious time to process it. Now,
but I bet you would go inward quickly.
Absolutely.
Quicker.
Yes. And I think at the same time, I think anytime there is that kind of breakdown in a relationship, it takes two to tango.
Exactly.
So
you go inward and you go, how was I being? What did I do that had her actually go there?
That's right.
Right?
You got to take responsibility for being part of that relationship also.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying there aren't people out there who are not horrible people and that do things completely narcissistically and the other person is really a victim. I believe we're talking about are people who are in some sort of a responsible relationship.
The 97% we're talking
something.
about. Right?
I don't know, whatever the heck we are, what we're discussing.
It's interesting because the what you were just saying, right? It's like my wife eventually took obviously time, full responsibility for it, right? She said, I was gone a lot. I was at work. I came home tired. I came home in my masculine. I don't want to talk. I don't want to be...
This is how she responded as soon as you told her?
No. It took some time.
Oh, sorry. Got it.
But she also has done a lot of the work and Landmark and MITT. Right. And there was just there was the anger, the outrage, the confusion. And then at some point there was the like, okay, well, let's look at what I did. How can I be responsible? Not blamed or her fault, right? As you know, that could land wrong. But so then she was like, well... Yeah, I was at work. I was busy. I was in my masculine. I was like too tired to talk about it. I was always bitching about work and, clients, projects and all that stuff. And I wasn't in my feminine. So we realized that. Now, we didn't realize that until very recently, clearly. And so the taking responsibility took, like you could say, 4 or 5 years to really feel like now we can talk about it on a podcast.
Got it.
Because we started the podcast last September, and I think we sort of early this year we're able to say, all right, let's talk about everything. And so my point is it does take time, or to your point as well, it takes time. But when you know that you're going to go inward eventually, that it's not just about the other person doing something wrong, but it takes two to tango. Now we're having an understanding, loving, mature relationship.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to really, I mean, if somebody knows of a better way to remedy stuff like that, let me know. I'll take the seminar.
Right. I don't think I really don't know. I mean, there's choice one, which is you hunker in and you do the work, or you cut bait.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really no, there's no in between. And I think the in between is misery.
Yeah. Being on the fence, wearing no shorts.
That's right.
That hurts.
Well, it's like, I think it's a big conversation around, not a big conversation. I don't know why I said that, but I think that the reason people get stuck in breakdown is because they don't choose one way or the other.
Yeah.
They're
afraid they're going to choose the wrong.
They linger.
Right?
They hang out in limbo. And they wonder why nothing is changing, why things feel miserable, why am I stuck? Because you're stuck, because you're not choosing. Now, you may not choose the quote-unquote right way to go, but choose. Just choose and recalibrate.
That's exactly I felt when I chose. Well, part of the story was for 4 days during, the spring break. My wife took the kids to Mexico because her sister went. She said, I'm going to take the kids. We worked out that I have 4 days to think about it. This is after I said, I think maybe want to be with other women. I'm not sure. She was like, you think about it.
Right.
And I had 4 days in this house by myself.
Wow.
And I locked myself in. I read books. I called friends. I watched movies, documentaries on this. Yeah. I watched everything on the subject. I was just like, what am I doing? Like, what do I need to be doing? And I knew nobody could tell me. It would have to come from inside.
Yeah, right? Doesn't that suck sometimes?
Oh my God. It was, and then here's the cool thing. You'll appreciate this. My wife's in Mexico, and she had this moment of inspiration between sadness and crying and anger. She said, I'm going to write down what I actually want in this relationship. So she wrote me, it was a text. She wrote me these 20 things of like, I want my man to be like this. I want him to be spiritual. I want him to be masculine. I want to be a leader. Like she wrote all these things. And I was so in breakdown. I read them and I went, I'm none of that. That is not who I am. That's a tall order, right?
Right.
I read it again 2 months ago. I'm like, that's me.
Wow.
But I was so disconnected from.
It's like the filter.
Yeah.
There's the lens that you're looking through was one way.
Yep.
And then it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, right?
I was just like, how is that even humanly possible that I could think that I'm none? I literally looked at it. I'm like, I'm none of that. You may as well just break up with me now. But she persisted. She's like, I know that's who you can be or become, right?
Yes. And I think that's, the idea of being able to have relationships where you consider the people you're with, especially the people who you love and you're connected to, the people you have in your inner circle, the people you trust. If we have the ability and the courage, the honesty to see each other for what we're capable of, see each other for what is possible, not what we believe is possible, but like to see the other person for being extraordinary and nothing else, hold them to that standard. Not I don't mean like, or else, but like I'm listening to you like an extraordinary human being. Not a limited belief, fear-based, terrified, small human being, which we all can be.
Competitor.
Right, or a competitor. But because we can all be that. We can all be that. But on our best day, in our most evolved, enlightened self, the possibility of who we are is extraordinary.
I always say,
so to be able to surround ourselves with people who see us that way and hold us to that is invigorating and scary at the same time.
Absolutely. And one of the terms I learned recently at MITT, which I love, is you call each other forth, not out. Right? You hold the carrot up high, not low, because, I mean, what kind of lives are we creating if we constantly look at our partner and go like, well, you're just not doing the right thing, and you're just not good enough, and you're just not the right husband, and, all that stuff. When we do that, what we create is a complete intimacy killer. There's no intimacy there. Zero. Maybe sexual, physical touch once in a while, but no intimacy.
We have, I think have we solved the world's problems?
The world's problems?
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't think we talked about poverty and
excuse me.
Plastic in the oceans. We haven't talked about Amazon.
Plastic in the ocean yet?
We got a lot to go.
All right. No, I mean, but the thing is, like, relationships, intimacy, integrity are pretty big topics.
That's the foundation, I would say.
And I think it's interesting you say foundation also, because I think that's what I realized that my wife and I had unconsciously created when we were first dating. That first year, that love affair, that infatuation, that excitement, that unpredictability, that newness, all that,
the butterflies,
chemical, that combination of energy creates a cement, or it doesn't. And I say that in the sense of it being the foundation.
Nice, And
I feel like we mixed up a really nice, solid cement foundation, thank God, because it gave us the ability to bend and sway and shift and not break, not fall over. But it had to do with, for me at least, I think she would agree, is that early part of our relationship where we really just got to fall in love and enjoy the messiness of it and the excitement of it and all of that. I mean, I remember thinking about it. I was like, this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah, we did. That's well said. I've never heard the metaphor that way. I really like that with the cement. And our cement, so to speak, was that we said, whenever something happens, anything occurs in the marriage that's challenging, we're going to come from one place, not the other. We're going to come from how are we going to make it work, and not from is it going to work out. It was a simple shift. It's like, oh, something happened. Okay, what do we got to do here? Not like, oh, what does that mean? And is that going to work out?
Or like you're going to worst case scenario. You're going to best possible options, worst case scenario.
Like we're capable of figuring this out.
That's right.
And another thing I will add now, and you'll appreciate this, having kids, I always tell my wife, look, if we ever get divorced, we are committed to the most peaceful divorce in the fucking world. I want to be in the Guinness Book of Records of most peaceful divorces if we're having a divorce.
A picture of you guys in the Guinness Book as most peaceful.
Absolutely. That's my commitment. That's my carrot, right?
Yeah.
Will I be able to create that? Am I being arrogant by saying that? Well, maybe, but I want to create that.
Being able to create the context. Right? It's like having that context be like having a conversation about being why can't I say even the word like disloyal? What is the word that when you cheat? What is that word?
When you're infidel. Well, when you're a cheater,
cheating bastard.
Cheating bastard. Yeah.
But when you have a conversation like that, it's going to be an awkward conversation, right? And people say, "Oh, I don't want." Oftentimes, people don't have those kinds of conversations because they're afraid, like you said, of how the other person's going to think about it. And it's oh, how am I going to say it? Am I going to do it right? And I oftentimes, in my own experience, and then somebody asks me, what do you think I should do? My sharing from my experience is you can pretty much believe and guarantee that kind of conversation is going to be sloppy. So don't try to not make it sloppy. You can actually just acknowledge, hey, I need to have a conversation with you. I want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
I apologize in advance because it's probably not going to be pretty.
And
it's
I'm
going to be sloppy. I feel awkward.
Yep.
I don't know what to say, how to say it. However, I do want to create the context for the conversation that wherever it goes and where it ends will be within intimacy. Will be within affinity.
Yeah.
Affinity. Love.
And you're getting the truth.
That within this bubble, if you will, within this conversation, the intention is love.
Yeah.
Now, however we navigate through that is going to be whatever it's going to be. And that may be me telling you to F off, or you telling me to F off, or me storming out of the room, or you throwing something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's all within that context of like what you're saying, which is something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something where there's possibility.
I totally agree. And I just had this vision. I recently, I don't know if you heard Joe Rogan's podcast with Elon Musk.
Oh, no.
Check it out. It's interesting.
Okay.
But I will say that I find this conversation more sobering, more real, more important, because I feel like, and Elon is a fascinating guy, and I love Joe Rogan's podcast, and my declaration is I will be on that show.
Sure.
That's my declaration.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, in our case, this is the stuff, this is the, I hate to call it the cancer, but this is what's rotting our marriages, our families, our relationships, right? And kids pick it up and they continue it. They copy paste it onto the next generation.
Well, yeah, they're modeling it.
Yeah.
And they're also feeling it energetically. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just feel like this is a conversation worth having, where people, because let's say we go to Mars. Well, if we go to Mars and we have the same no intimacy and inauthentic conversations, we're going to continue the same shit up there, blow that place up, and go to the next place, right? So it's a Band-Aid, and it's great. We go to Mars. Like I'm all for that, and I'm all for artificial intelligence is a big part of that podcast conversation. Well, artificial intelligence is all mind. What we need is heart. What we need is the vulnerability of opening the heart.
Yeah, and I think there's also something to be said about the coherence, the connectivity between the heart and mind.
Exactly.
That there isn't a separation, and there need not be a separation. In fact, there shouldn't be a separation. There should be harmony between the heart and the mind. And in fact, there's been scientific proof of neurons, cells in the heart that are like brain neurons in the heart. So like the heart's thinking too.
Absolutely.
The brain's thinking, but the heart's thinking. And that there is both going on at the same time. And we sometimes disregard the heart. We say, oh, well, follow your heart, right? Well, why not? Maybe you should follow your heart. Because oftentimes, if you ask yourself a question, I heard this one time and I thought, oh, that's interesting. If you ask yourself a question, what should I do about X, right? And you're really stuck and no one can tell the answer.
Yeah.
The answer that is the most succinct, short, and eloquent is your heart.
Yeah.
The one that is a monologue that goes on and explains why and who and how and here is your mind.
Yeah.
And to be able to distinguish between the two, to have the agility,
takes practice.
Takes practice. It really does. It takes practice.
Yeah.
And to trust it.
Yeah.
To trust that, oh, okay, that does work. And I'm going to go there. But it's practice. And you have to work that muscle.
I heard this great saying recently. It said, hopefully I'm not butchering it. It says,
I butcher stuff all the time. In fact, I just did the neurons in the heart thing.
So let me pretend I'm not butchering it.
Okay.
It said, yo heart, make the mind your bitch. Right?
Right.
And it was in the context of the mind's been running the show. The IQ has been dominating, but the EQ, the emotional intelligence, should run and let the mind execute it, right? Use the mind to create shit.
Yeah.
But it's got to come from the heart.
Yeah, the mind like runs the machine.
Yeah.
The body, the physicality, the blood pumping, the food digesting.
Yeah, it's like the Google search engine. If you need some information, great.
Yeah.
But what are we using it for? What are we creating? Where is that coming from, right?
Yeah.
If it's not coming from the heart, it ain't going to contribute to the world.
Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm not sure if you've ever listened to his stuff before.
Know him.
I just say that only because here I am, like just throwing stuff out that I am not a doctor or anything like that.
Same here, by the way.
But hearing these things, it's great to listen to somebody who actually is trained in that space. Yeah. I like Joe Dispenza, the way he boils things down in a way that isn't just, hey, I got this really cool idea about your heart, man, and the way your heart should be. It's like science. It's combined science.
Yeah.
You can literally measure the neurosynapses in your brain connecting or dissolving.
Yeah.
It is not like I'm making it up as a really cool idea because I went to a Tony Robbins event.
Yeah.
It actually is happening, and I can actually show you it. That I love. So anyway, that's why.
No, that's great. Do you know Boise Thomas?
No.
It used to be called Jagran during the landmark days. He was a seminar leader. No.
Oh wait, what? What was his name again? What did you say?
Back then it was Jagran, Jagran.
Young guy, dark hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commercial actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really energetic.
That's
and
so awesome. Wild. Yeah. What's the names? I don't understand the names. Is his name?
It was his what do you call it? Not stage name, but name at the time.
And he changed his name.
His name is Boise Thomas. That's his real name.
God.
And he's actually writing a book called How's Your Heart?
Huh.
And he was on my podcast too, and he's sort of traveled the world and traveled around asking people that question and writing a book. So it just reminded me when you said about the heart. He's also done some research on what the heart actually is and does. And so it's just interesting. But I think, let's see, we've talked for about an hour and 45 minutes, which is close to the longest podcast I've ever had. And yet
is my longest.
Yet it feels like we've talked for 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, man. That's what time is a funny thing, right?
It doesn't exist.
It's made up.
Riding the wave.
Whole other podcast episode.
Somebody's like, "What do you mean it's made up? It's not made up. There's time.
It's a construct, dude."
And that's one of those things. It really fucking doesn't exist.
Yeah,
you know?
I know.
It's all about just moment to moment and priorities.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But I want to say, just to end the podcast, if you feel like we should end it, maybe you don't. Because it's your podcast.
No, honestly, man, I know we could go on, and this happens many times in these kinds of conversations because there's no end.
I wonder what the longest, could we do Guinness Book of Records world's longest podcast?
It's like 17-hour model, 17-hour podcast.
Oh, I'd be down.
Yeah, it's just it's a series.
Shit, I'm going to research that.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
There you go.
Just want to know, like, if it's 17 hours, let's do an 18-hour podcast. Let's get snacks.
Let's start. That's right. Just hunker down.
Let's get snacks and cat treats. Well, first of all,
I always just wonder how long people will listen. And I'd like to believe that people will listen the whole time, right? But I listen to like Malcolm Gladwell or Dax Shepard or Wake Up with Sam Harris. You know, like those guys go long.
I know there's some like 2-3 hour podcasts,
you know, and I don't listen to them in one sitting, and perhaps they won't be listening to this in one sitting, but I'd like to hope that they're listening to this part, which is towards the end.
I hope too that people will finish it or listen to it in chunks. And even if not, hey, if they listen to 5 minutes, then
it's a good thing.
Hopefully we have something to contribute that we went through that we would love other people to maybe have an insight. That's how I haven't had insights, by listening to people and other couples and, you know.
Well, exactly. I mean, like what you're saying, because of the experience we both have had in seminars where the space is transformation, right? The intention is transformation. And the same thing for me with being in recovery, being in the rooms of AA, for example, is that the ability to be in a space where the intention is growth and listening to others' experience of growth, even if you're saying nothing. My experience is that I can have a breakthrough just listening.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the part of the inspiration for me doing the podcast also, was that if somebody can be listening to this and have an aha moment or have a breakthrough on their own, just driving home and, make their commute home easier, then that makes me happy.
That's awesome. I agree. And for us, I mean, for me, it's a self-expression. I actually did a Facebook Live today where I talked about, depression versus self-expression. And if we're not self-expressed, we're naturally depressed. If we're not moving forward, we're moving backwards, right?
Right.
And so I'm so grateful for every opportunity I have just to express myself. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it's interesting and somebody will hate it. That's fine. That's their self-expression.
Sure.
You hate it? Yeah. Email me about it.
Yeah.
That you fucking hated it.
Why did you hate it?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Be with your emotions, right? Or your trigger points or whatever.
Right.
And I do the same thing. And I appreciate you coming down and making time. And, you're a busy guy.
Yeah.
For us to have this, what I think is a very important conversation.
Yeah, right back at you, man. I'm glad we made this work out. Thanks to Bridge.
Yes. Thank you, Bridge.
For bridging
for bridging
the relationship.
Us. See?
Yeah.
There's no coincidence. We just got something.
So thanks, everybody, for listening to another episode of Breakthroughs with Jordan Murphy. It has been really a pleasure having you as a guest, Roman.
My pleasure.
Roman Wyden. His podcast, again, is You Love Life. That will obviously be available on the website as well as in the show notes. And it was really a kind of a unique experience having a ping pong episode. Something
match.
I've not done. Yeah, exactly. Ping pong match. Something I've never done before. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. See you next time on Breakthroughs with Jordan Murphy.